Welcome to Down the Dopamine Hole. Here's the deal. I am sure that many of you, like me, have read articles or watched videos about all of these things that you can do to improve your mood. But realistically, when I read the articles or watch the videos, I think to myself, if I had the motivation and the energy to do these things, I wouldn't need to improve my mood because my mood would be pretty awesome to begin with. I get really frustrated with these things because they give me solutions that just aren't feasible. So, my goal with this episode today is to actually give you things that you can do in 10 minutes or less to actually improve your mood if you have very low energy and very low motivation. Okay, the first thing is self talk, which is also called cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically, what this says is that if you can change the way that you think about a situation, you can change the way that you feel about it, and then you can change the way that you behave. Example, say I try to do something and it's just not happening the way that I want it to happen. There's multiple ways that I can think about this, but if I go with I can't do anything right, it's going to make me feel very defeated, and then it's going to make me more likely to quit. If, however, I can learn to challenge that thought, and if I think I can't do anything right, and then if I can kind of stop myself, learn to change that and think, okay, I know that there's a lot of things that I can do right. Maybe I can't figure this out on my own. Maybe I need help. Maybe I need to stop, do a little bit more research, or think about different ways that I can do this. If I can think about it in that aspect, it's a little bit less likely that I'm going to feel defeated, and it's less likely that I'm going to quit. We need to learn how to reframe things. We need to learn to change our thinking in things. This has been shown to be one of the most effective therapies when it comes to depression or anxiety. It takes a couple of seconds to be able to do this. This takes a lot of practice, though. I mean, a lot of practice. It took us a long time to learn to think the way that we think. So it's going to take us a long time to unlearn the way that we think. But it is absolutely possible. I'm going to put a link down below to a workbook that talks more about this. And it has a little worksheet in there and it can kind of show you how to do this. But it is amazingly effective. Decrease alcohol use. I know a lot of people are probably like, what? I don't want to decrease alcohol use. Yeah, but here's the deal. Alcohol increases serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. These are neurotransmitters that make you feel good and make you feel relaxed. And you say, well, why would I want to decrease alcohol then if it does all that stuff for me? Because it does it temporarily. What happens then is when the alcohol wears off, then you tend to have kind of a little bit of a mood crash. It does make you feel worse in the long run. In some people, even small amounts of alcohol can cause less emotional regulation and more aggressive behavior. Alcohol takes away our inhibition. So the control that we're normally able to maintain over our emotions can sometimes slip, and it can cause us to feel things more strongly and not just the good things. The effects of certain medications, especially those that also depress the central nervous system, like antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications, pain medications, headache medications, that can increase the effects of alcohol. It can actually make mood and behavior effects even more severe. Alcohol also affects sleep. Although alcohol tends to make it easier for us to fall asleep, it also keeps us in a lighter sleep stage. And essentially, then we're not getting the REM or the deep sleep that we need. Being in a lighter sleep stage makes us less rested. And I think we all know what happens with sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation tends to make our mood worse. Okay, now I'm going to come to the one thing that everybody, well, there's actually some of you out there that like this. I have no understanding of you, but I know you exist, and that is exercise. And this to me is one of the worst words in the English language, probably one of the worst words in every language. However, there's so much research that has shown that exercise actually does improve mood. It improves our self concept, it improves our body image. It helps with mood symptoms. It helps with the physical symptoms that go along with mood symptoms. It helps improve focus, memory, cognition, language fluency, and decision making, which are all issues, not just in mood, but in ADHD. It can help improve the functioning of what's called the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. This tends to be overactive in people with mood disorders, with ADHD, with anxiety disorders. So, managing this actually helps to control cortisol secretion, which is a stress hormone. If we can help control this, it helps to decrease cortisol production, which tends to not keep our body in a constant state of fight or flight. It also tends to restore all of the neurotransmitters that deal with hunger and fullness. So it can actually help to maintain our metabolism. It also has been shown to help with systemic inflammation. And we know that inflammation is correlated with depression and anxiety. So lower inflammation tends to help with depression and anxiety. We know that about 150 minutes a week is the recommended amount of exercise, but if you're currently doing nothing, anything is better than that. If you do 10 minutes a day, if you do 10 minutes 3 times a week, it's better than what you're doing. And you say, well, what can I do in 10 minutes? Well, hey, lucky for you guys, you have me. I am putting 2 links below, one of which is a low impact 10-minute exercise program. The other link that I'm going to put in is 10-minute or less yoga exercises. There is 10 minutes that you can do. You also don't have to do all of your exercise at one time. If you did one of the 10-minute exercise programs from the link in the morning and then you took a short walk in the evening, that's 20 minutes a day. I'm not saying you have to do that. Do it 2 or 3 times a week if that's what you can do. Like I said, it's better than nothing. And if you ask, well, I don't know what the best exercise is, the best exercise is whatever you do consistently. That's the best exercise. Another thing that you can do, which will improve your mood, pet an animal. Your own is preferable because you have a bond, but pet an animal. When we touch things that are soft, it is called contact comfort. It is the safe, warm feeling that we get whenever we touch something soft. It's why we like fuzzy blankets. It's why we like fuzzy pullovers, but animals tend to be better because the bond that we have with animals tends to produce oxytocin. Oxytocin tends to promote trust, bonding, empathy, all of those things that tend to improve our mood. Petting animals also increases serotonin and dopamine. It also reduces cortisol production, which is that stress hormone. Petting an animal has also been shown to decrease blood pressure. Pets can provide companionship, which makes people feel less lonely. Pets give people a sense of purpose, and all of these are necessary for a stable mood. Pets can also increase socialization. There's nothing like a dog park to get people talking. And even if you don't have a dog, go ask people about their animals. Guarantee that people will start to tell you and show pictures to you of their dog, cat, bearded dragon, hedgehog, snake, whatever it is that they love. And by the way, if you guys have pets, feel free to tell me about them in the comments below. But I am super, super sad that you cannot upload pictures because I love pet pics. Another thing that you can do to improve your mood, go outside. We need 10 to 30 minutes a day of sunlight on our skin, and through a window doesn't help. Go outside. You guys get up in the morning. You get a cup of coffee, tea, pop, water. Look, if you guys drink water in the morning, like kudos, because you are way healthier than me. And you doom scroll or you do whatever it is that you do in the morning when you wake up. Go do it outside. Just go sit outside for 10 minutes. That's all you got to do. Sunlight exposure tends to boost vitamin D levels. And vitamin D is associated with stronger bones, a stronger immune system, better cardiovascular health, better muscle function, and improved mood. Sunlight activates the pineal gland in the brain, which is related to the production of serotonin. Serotonin, happy chemical. Sunlight stops your brain from producing melatonin, which is necessary for your brain to realize it's time to wake up. If you are able to stop melatonin production early in the day, it tends to allow you to then start to produce melatonin a little bit earlier at night. So those of you that have problems going to sleep until much, much later at night, getting sunlight earlier in the day can allow you to start that melatonin production a little bit earlier at night. Oh, and if you go outside for like any length of time, remember to wear sunscreen because getting skin cancer is not going to improve your mood. Although, I mean, seriously, to be honest, like getting cancer was the best thing that has ever happened for my mental health. No kidding. But I may talk about that in a future episode. Phone a friend or a family member. Research prior to the pandemic was showing that we were starting to have a loneliness epidemic. And since the pandemic, things have gotten worse. Mental health and social connection have a bi directional relationship. The better our mental health is, the more social we tend to be. But the worse our mental health is, the worse our social connections tend to be. We communicate through DMs, through texts, through pebbling, but it's not the same as actually talking to somebody. Face to face communication is actually better than phone conversations, but in general, that takes more than 10 minutes. Look, you have your phone in your hand all the time anyway. Just hit a name on a screen. It's really not that hard. Talk to someone. And look, if your family sucks, okay, like don't talk to them, just talk to a friend. Practice gratitude. Not only is gratitude a feeling, but it's also a conscious act of acknowledging something or someone that you value. Your brain rewards gratitude by releasing all of the neurotransmitters that are responsible for reward and feeling good, like dopamine and serotonin. Are you guys starting to see the pattern here with the whole neurotransmitter thing? Yeah. Gratitude makes your brain encourage kindness towards other people and engage in socially conscious behavior. Basically, practicing gratitude makes you nicer. It reduces stress and anxiety. It reduces depression. It increases emotional resilience. It improves focus. It helps with social bonding and it improves immunity and physical health. Practicing gratitude rewires your brain to think about things in more positive ways. And for people that have mood issues, this is massive. For people with depression, we have a default mode, if you will, of paying attention to things that are negative more so than things that are positive. We also have a tendency, and this has been shown through neurological research, we store negative memories more strongly than we store positive memories, which is one of the reasons why when you think about your past, those negative memories will come up more easily. Practicing gratitude actually kind of helps to rewire your brain and get out of that default way of thinking in which we think negatively. And gratitude actually helps you to think more positively. How do we do this whole gratitude thing? Get a gratitude journal. Every night before you go to bed, you write down 3 things or more, but at least 3 things that you're grateful for. And you really try to not write down the 3 same things every day. You may be grateful for the same 3 things every day, but you try to pick different things. It could be really small things. It could be you got a compliment at work. It could be the first flowers of spring bloomed. It could be that your cat snuggled up on your lap when you got home from work. It just needs to be something that made you happy, something that you're grateful for. What this does is it makes you consciously pay attention to those good moments in the day instead of that default paying attention to the negative. But if you think about it, 5 minutes a day to rewire your brain, that's a pretty good deal. Declutter a space. You don't have to declutter everything at once. You can pick a really small space. You can pick your nightstand. You can pick your desk. You can pick the bottom of your closet, whatever. Just pick something that you can do fairly quickly. Decluttering tends to boost our mood in 3 ways. It allows our body to move while our mind can wander. We know what movement or exercise does for our mood. We talked about that. But allowing your mind to wander and not ruminate on anything, not stress about anything, that actually tends to be really relaxing. We can feel a sense of accomplishment when we finish something, even if it's something small. And accomplishment tends to be really motivating. It makes us tend to want more accomplishment. Decluttering one drawer today is probably going to lead to another drawer tomorrow. It also decreases anxiety because when our environment is messy, it tends to make our emotions messy too. And if you don't believe me, just try. Start with something visible and something that you use often, like your desk or your nightstand or your kitchen table or whatever. And you'll see what I'm saying pretty quickly. Another thing that you can do in under 10 minutes is mindfulness. There is a ton of ways to use mindfulness, but mindfulness is basically anything that you do to be aware of the present moment, to live in the present moment. You're not worrying about the past, you're not worrying about the future. And for a lot of us, that can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be. As long as you're paying attention to yourself, your body, your thoughts, your feelings, and or your environment, you're practicing mindfulness. You can brush your teeth and practice mindfulness. You can look out the window and practice mindfulness. People think that mindfulness is this really kind of structured activity, but it doesn't have to be. Here are a few ways that you can practice mindfulness. Pay attention. For example, if you're eating, pay attention to your food. What does it taste like? What is the texture? How full do you feel? One of the reasons why people tend to eat too much is because we often eat while we're doing something else. So we're not paying attention to our bodily sensations that are telling us when we're full. Pay attention to those things. You'd be amazed at how much you really don't need to eat. And you'd also be surprised at how much you actually enjoy your food. Focus on your breathing. And no, you don't have to do the breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. I personally hate that. It makes me feel like I can't breathe. Just breathe normally, but focus on your breathing. How does it feel when the breath comes in? How does it feel when your lungs expand? How does it feel when you breathe out and your lungs contract? I was going to say de-expand. That's not exactly the word I'm looking for. I make up a lot of words, by the way, when I need them. But just pay attention to how good that feels in your body. It's very soothing. Be conscious of your surroundings. Like, what can you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? This is especially good if you take a walk. Look at that. You could do exercise and mindfulness all at the same time. It's like a twofer. Do you see animals? Are you a people watcher? If you're a people watcher, what are people doing? Just pay attention to what's going on around you and disconnect. Turn off the technology, or at least get away from the technology for a few minutes. Just be with yourself and the world, and see what it's like. Meditate. There are so many different ways to meditate. It doesn't just include sitting with your legs crossed and looking at one thing. That's not always necessary. I'm going to put a link to a free meditation app that is pretty wonderful. Sometimes it's just sitting and listening to somebody guide you through something. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. Listen to upbeat music. A lot of you do this anyway. Music, I'm sure you've already guessed this one, releases dopamine. It decreases cortisol levels because increased dopamine can actually lower pain. It can help you sleep if you're experiencing any kind of pain, sore muscles from working out, or period pain, or headaches, or labor. Just kidding. If you're in labor, I'm not thinking that you're probably going to go to sleep. If you add a couple of these things together, like listening to music while you're exercising or listening to music while you practice mindfulness, it's like a double whammy. You get, again, 2 for 1. And that, my friends, is what I call a win-win. Be kind. This has 2 parts. One is being kind to other people. And this can be as simple as the next time you see somebody and you think to yourself, wow, that's a cool shirt, or I really like her hair. Tell the person, hey man, I really like your shirt, or wow, your hair's really pretty. And before any of you guys are like, look, I don't want to be the creepy dude, here's the deal. If you say something to a woman and you keep walking, you're not the creepy dude. If you say something to a woman with the expectation of getting something in return, you're the creepy dude. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you are kind to another person and you see the look on their face when you compliment them, it's pretty amazing. It makes you feel pretty good. The other part of being kind is being kind to yourself. And this kind of tends to be a little bit difficult for people. But the thing that you have to remember is that you're a person too. If you do it for someone else, you need to do it for yourself. And I hear a lot of people that are like, but, okay, but nothing, knock it off. You are not a second-class citizen. I don't care who taught you that you were, you're not. You have to understand that the first time that somebody treated you badly, that didn't feel comfortable either. And yet you learn to accept it. When you start being nice to yourself, that's not going to be comfortable either, but you will learn to accept it over time. This one is going to seem really simple, but I guarantee it's going to have a bigger effect than you'll think. Take care of your physical needs. When we feel really bad, we have a tendency to let our physical needs go. When my mood is bad, there's 3 things that I always ask myself. When's the last time I took a shower? When's the last time I ate? and when's the last time I slept. Because guaranteed at least one of those, it's going to be longer than it should have been. Take a shower. I know that taking a shower feels like it has 357 steps. I get it. And sometimes it is so overwhelming that you're just like, I'll do it later. I don't want to deal with it. Force yourself to go take a shower. And women, if it's been multiple days since you've washed your hair, wash your hair. I know it's hard. I know it's laborious. Do it anyway. It will make you feel so much better. If you have not eaten, and I know sometimes when our mood sucks, the last thing that we want to do is eat. But you have to understand what happens when our blood sugar goes down, we get hangry, it makes our mood worse. You have to eat something, even if it's toast. I don't know, something. Like you have to eat something. And just, like drinking energy drinks is not it. Please don't do that. Eat something. What happens is food increases our blood sugar. It also increases dopamine. I'm telling you, the amount that you feel better is pretty astronomical. The other thing that you need to do is you need to sleep. And a lot of times what happens when we feel bad is we fight sleep. And you guys know what I'm talking about. You fight sleep. Stop fighting sleep. Couple reasons. One is because we need to sleep because we know what happens with sleep deprivation. The other thing is that it is much, much harder for us to self-regulate our emotions when we're tired. The worse we feel, often the more we're going to fight sleep. And then it's a very bad cycle. The other thing that I'm going to advise you of, please do not get in serious conversations with other people when you're tired. You are way more likely to get into an argument at night when you're tired than you would if you were having a conversation during the day when you're not tired. Get sleep and then have those conversations the next day. Do 10 minutes of that thing that you've been putting off. Just 10 minutes. That's it. Set a timer if you want. Do 10 minutes of it. If you don't want to do any more, don't do any more. We have been taught that if we do something, that we are supposed to do the entire thing at once. And perfectly, by the way. Whoever taught us that should know. That's just wrong. We need to do things in small stages because we don't have the motivation to get up and do the entire thing. That's a lot. And so we think about doing the entire thing and it becomes overwhelming and then we just don't do it. I heard procrastination described in a way that was genius. I mean, genius. I heard described as procrastination is a misguided emotional regulation strategy. So let me say that again. Procrastination is a misguided emotional regulation strategy. Let me explain that. When we think about doing something that makes us feel bad, because it's something generally we don't like to do, obviously. So I'm going to use mopping my floor as an example because I hate to mop my floor. So what I do is I'm going to procrastinate. I'm going to do something else. And the thought behind it, even if subconsciously, the thought behind it is, if I do this other thing first, it's going to put me in a better mood. And then I'm going to be more likely to do this thing that I don't want to do. Maybe I go on social media, I doom scroll, I watch a couple shows, I do whatever the case may be. And then after a couple hours, I stop doing the other thing, but now I feel worse because I feel guilty and I feel bad that I did this procrastination thing when in reality, I just screwed around for 2 hours and I could have mopped my floors 10 times. Well, probably more. Way more times than how much time I just screwed around. It makes me feel worse. And then I say, well, I'll do it tomorrow. But we all know what's going to happen tomorrow, don't we? Yes. And this is why we put things off for months on end. And then when we finally actually do get ourselves to do the thing, it takes us such a small amount of time. And then we kind of kick ourselves going, why did it take me 6 months to do that? We need to do things in very, very small chunks, 10 minutes. Task initiation is very difficult for us. We need to initiate the task. We needed to get some part of it done because, like I said, achievement, by the way, tends to be very motivating. Once we achieve something, we tend to want to achieve more. The other thing is that sometimes once we initiate a task, we have a tendency to want to finish it. But if you don't, it's fine. If you really do 10 minutes of something and you don't want to do any more of it, don't. It's fine. Even if you did 10 minutes twice a week of something, it's more than what you're getting done right now. The last one I have for you is be creative. Creativity has been shown to improve mood significantly. But again, bidirectional relationship. The more creative we are, the better our mood. But the better our mood, the more creative we are. And before you guys say, I'm not artistic, understand that there's a lot more to creativity than just being able to draw or paint. I'm going to give you a couple of ideas. These are a little bit of weird ideas, but they're all things you can do in 10 minutes. Write a short story that is approximately 100 words. Understand that 100 words is not very much. It's a lot harder than you think. Write 6-word memories. Summarize your day, summarize your week, summarize your life. 6 words, that's all you got. Write a 3-sentence story, or even better yet, don't know if you guys have seen these, but a 3-sentence horror story. Oh, those are the best. I love them. Handwrite a letter and mail it to somebody. Nobody gets good mail anymore. We get bills or junk mail. Handwrite a letter and send it to somebody. Doodle. A lot of people doodle, but some people don't doodle. Doodle. Nobody cares if you know how to draw. Draw with your non-dominant hand because it helps to activate new connections in your brain. Cut out or print out pictures for a vision board. Your vision board is anything that motivates you. And then once you have enough for all of your motivations, all the things that motivate you or the things that you want, put them up. Bake microwavable mug cakes. Yes, there really are microwavable mug cakes. You make them in a coffee mug. Look them up. Tons of recipes. And then, of course, eat them because, yum. Photograph 5 objects in your home as if they were part of an art exhibition. Find some similarity. Take 3-second videos and then put them together into a video collage. Lots of things that you can do in 10 minutes with creativity. And there you have it. Proof that improving your mood doesn't always require a weekend retreat, a complete life makeover, or becoming the kind of person who wakes up at 5 a.m. to meditate on a mountaintop. Sometimes all it takes is 10 minutes, a little movement, a little sunlight, a favorite song, or maybe just putting on real pants. The next time you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or operating on the emotional equivalent of a phone battery at 3%, remember that small things count. You don't have to feel motivated before you do something helpful to yourself. Sometimes the motivation shows up after you start. So pick one tiny thing from today's episode and give it a shot. Worst case, you're out 10 minutes. Best case, your brain stops acting like it's reading doom and gloom headlines from, this year. And think of it this way. Snuggling with your pet or stepping outside is about as close as you're going to get to a cheat code. That's all I have for today. I'm very, very grateful that you decided to spend your valuable time with me. All of the research for this podcast is below. It's also on the corresponding website, downthedopaminehole.com. If you liked what you saw or listened to, please subscribe, like, all the good stuff. Share it with friends or share it with everybody. Comment. I love hearing what you guys have to think about anything that I talk about. I hope you learned something today. Really do hope you enjoyed your time with me. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Be happy. But most importantly, keep it weird.